Yeah. Oh, I think I've got that.
Hi, just give me a sort of thumbs up, or if you can hear me. We'll be starting in a couple of minutes, just waiting for a few more people in the room to arrive. There is a QR code on your screen at the moment. If you could just scan that and fill in the registration form details. It's just some information about you and your company, just sort of give it to the Department of Trade so they can give us more, keep us funded basically, so we can keep delivering workshops like this to yourselves. Yeah, brilliant. We'll be starting in just a couple of minutes, so bear with us. Morning, I'll just be faster. I do not fit over, don't worry. Right, if we get started then. Welcome everyone. I'm Sarah Winsbone from the Ambitious Essex Growth Hub. We're delighted to be here today with Heavyweight Digital. Thank you so much for hosting us. We are, like I said, very excited to learn from all your expertise. Obviously, you guys are brilliant at what you do. So just before I hand over to you, ladies, this is a hybrid event. So obviously we've got people in the room, people online, and I will be recording, or we will be recording this webinar, this workshop to go on our YouTube channel. I'll send it over to you either later today or tomorrow probably on our YouTube, just so that if there's anything you missed today, please don't stress about taking loads of notes. It will all be up on YouTube for you to watch at your own leisure as well later. Yeah, just a bit about the Growth Hub. We are basically like a one-stop shop for all business support for businesses in Essex, so new startups and medium-sized businesses. So if you want access to grants, we can help with that, with mentoring, with funding, with all the workshops and sort of events that we plan, networking events. So basically we're a bit of a one-stop shop for all things sort of small and medium-sized businesses in Essex. So feel free to come speak to me or reach out to me. I'll put my contact details in the chat for everyone online. And we hope we can support you further after today. I've told everyone in the room, but we aren't expecting a fire alarm. Obviously, if it goes off, we will leave you, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll come back, don't stress. Yeah, there will be about sort of 45 minutes to an hour sort of presentation with the ladies here. And then following that, we'll do a Q&A. So obviously people in the room, you can talk, people at home. If you type it into the Q&A section, I will represent you here in the room and be a voice for all your questions. I think that'll be really useful just to sort of, so obviously we'll learn everything and then sort of work out how it can like marry up with your personal business and what you require type thing. And then unfortunately people online, we will be saying goodbye, but people in the room, we can then like network a bit as well after the event. And then online we'll sort of finish sort of 11, half 11. In the room we'll finish about midday. So I hope that works for everyone. And yeah, we're very excited. If I hand over to Megan, Emma, Olivia and Lucy. Brilliant. Thank you. I'll let you. Oh, yeah, I told them about the thing. Let me just check that actually is going to work for you. There you go. Perfect. Nice.
Lovely. Hello, everyone. Hello, online. So I'll just do a quick intro about Heavyweight Digital and your speakers today. So we're in our 10th year providing services, digital marketing services to local businesses, but we do also cover across the UK as well. And between your speakers today, we've got 25 years combined experience in all the services that we're going to be telling you about. So I'm Emma. I'm not the first one, I'm the second one, you can tell. And I'm going to be talking to you today about Google Ads. So we'll go Google Ads first. Then Lucy's going to talk to you about search engine optimization. Then Megan's going to talk to you about meta ads. And lastly, Olivia will talk about organic social media. So get started. First, paid search, Google Ads. So if you're not already aware, Google Ads runs across Google Search, Maps, Shopping, YouTube, Gmail, Google Discover, the Google Play Store if you've got apps, and then also third-party websites, mobile apps via the display network. Google Ads works via keyword targeting. So it uses keywords that people type into Google. They're actively searching. That is the main method that Google Ads uses in order to run ads. Also with the keywords, it means that you can determine what level of interest people have in your business before starting, so where they are in the funnel. Why would businesses choose Google Ads? So it's a tried and tested platform. It's been around since the early 2000s. It's managed to evolve since the early 2000s as well. I'm sure you're all aware that search today doesn't look like it did in the early 2000s. In fact, it looks quite different, but Google is still here today as an ads platform. Within the platform itself, it's got smart tools that you can use to build out and do research for your ads as well. It's got cross-platform reach. So like I said earlier about YouTube, Google Search, Shopping, Gmail, all those kind of things. So there's various places that your ads can show from within the Google Ads platform. There's a large optimization potential as well. There's a lot of different campaign types that you can use within Google. Like I say, some are specific to YouTube, some are specific to search, some are specific to those third-party websites via the display networks. There's a lot of different options for you as well within the platform. And like I say, you can target customers at any point of your sales funnel, but it does have really strong bottom of funnel potential via that keyword targeting, because you can choose exactly what they're kind of searching for and what your ads show for. And generally, it's got faster results than the more organic methods. They're a bit more of a time investment. Generally, you can start to see results faster via the paid platforms. So obviously there's some kind of investment required in every kind of advertising. One is money, because this is paid ads. So the main monetary side of it is your ads budget that you'll need to set. You can either do it as a daily or a monthly budget, but you get to set that. But ads work on a cost per click basis. So you pay per click on your ad, therefore you need a budget set. What your budget needs to be is really very specific to your business, where you're targeting, where your customers are, and also what your competitors are doing as well. So if you want to target the whole of the UK, you're probably going to need a little bit more budget behind you because there's a very large potential there, isn't there? But if it's a little bit more local, say your radius around your postcode or certain postcodes or just a town, it might not be so much, but then it also does depend on your industry as well. Is your industry very competitive? Sometimes then that means cost per click is a bit higher, you might need some more budget. And then also what are your competitors doing? If they're willing to bid a lot, are you going to be able to compete? So those are the kind of things that you need to bear in mind from the monetary side of the investment. Then also time. Your time is required as an investment as well. Initially, you've got to have the time to do the keyword research required to know what exactly you want to target. And you can use those tools that I mentioned earlier that are all within the platform to do that. You also need to create compelling ad text. We want people to actually click on your ads because otherwise they're not going to get to your website. There's no chance of them becoming a customer. So you've got to invest the time in creating your campaigns, as we call them within Google Ads. And then the ongoing time investment is required to manage and further optimize your campaigns. Google Ads, like really most digital marketing efforts, isn't a set and forget. There is an ongoing time investment required to improve the performance of your campaigns. And that's why a lot of businesses will work with companies like Heavyweight Digital because they don't have the time. And we're here full time. So we can make that, well, not even a lot easier. We'll just take it off your plate entirely so that you get freed up to do more of your business. So what kind of businesses would benefit from Google Ads? Honestly, most. In the many years that we've been doing it, we've worked with countless clients across hundreds of industries, and it's very rare that you come up against a business that Google Ads isn't beneficial in some way. The caveat would be businesses with low priced products and services with very, very, very small profit margins may struggle a bit more. However, the caveat to that is that if your returning customer rate is high, then sometimes it might be worth taking the hit on the initial gain of a new customer because their lifetime value to you is a lot more valuable. So there's some things to bear in mind, even if, like I say, your profit margins are smaller. If you've got good returning customer rates, it still actually might be beneficial. And we've worked with many clients like that as well, where they take the hit, so to speak, on the initial gaining of a new client because they know they're going to have them for years and they're going to come back multiple times and spend lots more money with them. And therefore it makes it profitable. So that's something to bear in mind with your businesses as well, specifically. So, like I mentioned, Google Ads uses keywords. It's its main form of targeting. So what makes a good keyword to choose for your advertising? They need to closely relate to your product or service, ideally bottom of funnel. So especially if you're working with smaller budgets, bottom of funnel is going to be key. You don't really want to be using keywords like, how do I do this? Or like research. Let people get their research out of the way so that they can come and click on your ad when they actually know what they want and they're ready to be your customer. Don't waste your budget on those more research-based term keywords because they're not quite ready yet. And then also bear in mind everyday terms that people would use. Now, in some businesses, the business owners themselves will have one way of referring to their service, but the general public might have a slightly different way. And you need to incorporate both of them into your targeting. And again, you can use those tools that I mentioned to see what variations have search volume in the areas that you want to target as well. Things to avoid with keywords, like I said before, research-based keywords, broad or vague. Try and keep it more specific. Like, for example, if, I don't know, you do skip hire, don't have a keyword that says skips. Bit too broad. If someone's typing into Google skips, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually ready to hire a skip from someone. Whereas skip hire near me, in a location, 8-yard skip, they already kind of know what they want and they're telling you that with what they're searching. So that's why keeping it not making it broad or vague is a better use of your budget as well. And obviously keywords unrelated to your product or service. this can it can happen if you start targeting broad or vague keywords. Just keep it a little bit more niche to what you provide. And then the tool that you'd use to do your research, it's called the Keyword Planner tool, and it's directly within the Google Ads platform. Got a link to it there. I'm sure Sarah will be able to share a link to it afterwards as well. So there's various different ad types that you can run on Google. Some of them involve dynamic search ads. So what you do is you provide Google with the URL for your website and some baseline ad text, and then Google will show ads for searches that it thinks are relevant. This isn't massively or widely used across many ads campaigns. The most common one is a responsive search ad. And if you've ever searched anything in Google, this is probably what you've seen when you see the text ads at the top under sponsored. Those are responsive search ads. And then you've also got shopping ads if you're e-commerce. It is e-commerce only because it basically takes your product image, the price and the title, and that's what it displays. So you can't really write your own as you would with like a text ad you normally see.
Sorry, can I just interrupt?
Mhm.
Someone online has asked what funnels are.
So funnel is, if you think about your potential clients, at the top of the funnel, it's a lot broader, and then it comes in like this to it. If you think about like intent, but at the top of the funnel, people are normally researching. They don't actually know that they want your service yet. They're not quite there. They're still asking the questions about it. Like, I don't know, how do I get rid of waste from my home renovation? They don't know yet that they need a skip, right? So they're asking these kind of questions. And quite frankly, do you want to be spending your ad budget on those clicks? Because they don't know that they want your skip yet, and you do skip high, right? That's an example. Further down, they might decide, okay, they know I need a skip now because they've read articles and have information. So they're kind of in the middle of the funnel now. They might be asking, how much is a skip? Now, generally with those kind of searches, unless your website, on your skip hire website, you publish exactly what your prices are, that's more what they're looking for at that point. They're not looking necessarily to get in touch with you yet. They just want a quick answer as to how much is a skip. And then at the bottom of the funnel, right, they know how much it is. They know they need a skip. So now they're searching for, right, okay, skip hire in Chelmsford. That's bottom of funnel and where you'd want your ads to start showing, because they already know they need your service. They know how much it is. Now they're ready to buy. And at that point, it's worth getting a click on your ad. And like I say, it's cost per click. So you are paying per click. So at that point, it's worth it. Does that help?
Thank you.
Right. So I'll talk about responsive search ads because they are the most broadly utilized type of ad across the Google Ads platform. And we've probably all seen them at some point. So they're text ads. When you create them, you can add in up to 15 headlines to the main bits at the top of the ad. I will show you what they look like in a bit. The headlines have a maximum of 30 characters, including spaces, annoyingly. And then you have 4 descriptions, 90 characters max, including spaces. What Google will do is it will take all of the options that you've given it and it will rotate them and show them in the order that it thinks will best match what someone has searched. So they're constantly rotating around. And then it will get to a point where it has enough data of people clicking through your ads that it's like, right, this combination is the best. And it will start showing the best performing combinations more. When you're writing your ads, it is recommended to use at least 10 headlines and all your descriptions. All right. So here's what responsive search ads look like in Google search. And you can see these two, they are both responsive search ads, but they look slightly different. We can see you've got the headlines at the top and then the descriptions underneath. You see the one at the top, it's only got one description line showing, but the one at the bottom has got 2. It can show up to 3 headlines at any one time, but Google generally likes to just show 2. And then when you're writing your ad text as well, knowing what they look like, you need to make sure that your ad text can also make sense in most combinations, right? So that no one headline relies on another headline to show for it to make sense, right? But this is generally what people are seeing, either at the top or at the bottom of Google search results, and obviously they come under sponsored. So, writing headlines and descriptions, your key elements to include, like I said, target keywords. The reason you want to include those keywords that you found during your research is it helps with relevance and ad strength. You need to tell both Google and the person searching that your ad is actually relevant to what they typed in. And if you've got the keywords in there, because they're searching for those keywords, that will imply relevance and that you have actually linked up to the right search then, and hopefully get the click. You need your USPs, so your unique selling points about your business. Why should they click on your ad and not the others that are going to be there as well? What makes you different from your competitors? What are your hooks? And that's obviously going to be varying depending on your business. And then call to actions, CTA. So tell them what you want them to do. Do you want them to call? Do they need to fill out a form? Do they need to sign up? Do they need to get a free test? What do they do? Tell them. When you're writing your ad in the Google Ads platform, it will give you suggestions as well as you go along. You've got ad strength from poor to excellent. Excellent is obviously the best, but getting it to at least good. You have poor, average, good, excellent. And it will rate this based on, do you have your keywords in your ad text? Do you have enough variation? Have you written enough? Like if you've only got 3 headlines, it will say, give me some more, please. And also, it's important because if your ad strength is on the higher end, then your cost per click is going to cost less because Google deems your ad relevant. It doesn't want to give people searching irrelevant experiences because that makes people unhappy. So it wants to give people a relevant experience. So if you're doing that, you get rewarded by your click costing a bit less. And then lastly, keep writing your headlines and descriptions, like I said earlier, so that they're not all saying the same thing, but they're not all relying on each other to get the message across. That makes sense. Lastly, the structure of a campaign within your Google Ads account. So at the very top, you've got a campaign. Underneath that, you've got ad groups. And then underneath that, you've got your keywords and your ads themselves. So at campaign level is where you set your daily or monthly budget. It's where you choose your bidding strategy and set your location targeting. So for example, if you want to have some money set aside for Essex and some money set aside for Suffolk, let's say, you can have one campaign that is specifically for Essex and you set the budget at that level and you set Essex as the location targeting at the campaign level. And then you do exactly the same, but for Suffolk in another campaign. All right. Underneath campaign level, I said you've got your ad groups. The best way to think about ad groups is like folders for you to organize things in. That is their main purpose. Like you might have folders with your holiday photos to keep them organized instead of just keeping all your holiday photos ever in one folder. I mean, someone might like to do that. I personally wouldn't, feel a bit chaotic. But ad groups is where you organize your keywords. And then your keywords within an ad group, you can have an unlimited amount. I wouldn't, quite frankly, have an unlimited amount of keywords in an ad group. I'll get into that. And then a maximum of 3 responsive search ads. All right, you're not going to need any more than 3 because if you think about each one's got 15 headlines and 4 descriptions, that's a lot of variations running around. All right. And just to touch on ad groups again, you're going to want to group similar keywords together, right? So in this example here, this is for driveways, block paving, resin, tarmac, and then just general like driveway companies. The reason is, again, coming back to that ad text relevance, if you just put all of your keywords together, and there will be variation amongst them, if you put them all together in one ad group, how are you going to get an ad to be relevant to absolutely all of them? Think about those character limits that you've got. You'd struggle quite a lot to make one ad relevant to both block paving, resin, tarmac, and driveway companies in general. Because remember that Google's going to rotate those things around. So someone might search for block paving, but they get shown your headline that mentions tarmac. Not relevant, is it? And then you might lose the click because of it. So if you can organize all of your block paving keywords into one ad group, and then that ad that's in that ad group can just talk about block paving. You don't need to worry about tarmac or anything else. And then you know it's going to be relevant to whatever they're searching for. All right. So now you can think about whether Google Ads specifically is relevant. I think we're going to do questions at the end, is that all right? Next, Lucy's going to talk to you guys about the organic search side of things, which is the other side of Google. Yeah, we're going to do questions at the end. You're right to write it down. Okay. Over to you, Lucy. Let's swap.
Yeah.
Embarrassing, still being recorded. Okay, hi guys, I am Lucy and I am the SEO manager here at Heavyweight Digital. Is anyone familiar with SEO at all? Yeah, roughly. So it stands for search engine optimization, and it's basically just a summary of how we can make your website show on the first page of the search results in Google. Like I said, yeah, so when people are obviously searching for your related services or products, typically most people tend to go to Google first to do that targeted research. And when we're doing that, we see that it does take a little bit of time. So where the Google ads, you're paying for the privilege of showing there immediately, we've got to basically make Google trust your website, know that what you're offering is what meets what the users are searching for, and that your website is the best one to put in front of them. No better. There you go. There we go. So a good way to think about it is like you've got a garden. To plant a tree, to plant a seed, you need the right soil, regular watering, and a little bit of patience, and then you'll start to see your website grow and turn onto the first page of the search result. And then, yeah, once it grows, it keeps producing. So once you've got yourself onto the first page of the search results and you're finding that people are clicking through, you've got more traffic to your website and hopefully then more conversions as well, we find that it's a lot easier to stay there with just regular maintaining. So here's some examples of organic search results. This is probably the most well-known, the one that you probably think of when you're thinking of what Google looks like. And you can see here that you've got the title, the description, and then it's going to a very specific page. So for this one, it's quite an interesting service they're offering. But you'll see that it's going to, you can't see the cursor, Goats on Zoom is the specific service page it's going for. So it's not straight to that homepage on the website. So if you have some different services that you offer, for example, I know Emma used the skip hire one. If you offer 4-yard skips, it's really good to have a page dedicated to 4-yard skips so that if people are specifically searching for that, they go into a bespoke page to find the information thereafter. Then we've also got some more newer ways of search that have been introduced by Google. I'm sure a lot of you have probably used AI mode or know of it. And it's basically where Google uses its AI bot Gemini to basically go over normally the first page of search results and gather that information to give you a very bespoke response that links out to, on the side there you'll see what other websites it's pulled that information from. So it will actually cite the website that it's gathered that dedicated response from. You can do that in a few different ways. So sometimes through blog posts, if you're providing that information. This one has taken positive ratings and reviews from different websites ranking on that first page. So if you're looking for the best window cleaner in Braintree, it's actually giving you a bespoke list of that, taking into account the reviews and things like that. So it can be a really good way to be right at the very, very top before even the sponsored search results to get users to land on your website. Oh, that was AI mode, sorry. So it works very, very similar to AI overviews as well. So they both work in very similar ways. AI mode is its own segment on the search bar. So, you know, when you can go to images, shopping, videos, AI mode is right on the left-hand side. AI mode will show immediately in the search results there. So they look very similar and they behave in very similar ways. And then if you're a local business, a really good thing that you should look at introducing is having a Google business profile, because this will let you show in the local pack or the maps listing. So if you've ever searched for a place to go, or somewhere super local. This one, so best restaurants in Braintree. You'll see that when you've got a location or a targeted search area, it will show you normally 3 in one go, and then you can click on more places and it will give you a big old list. But immediately, straight away, you normally see about 3 listings, and you can contact directly through those listings or go straight to their website. To get into the local pack rankings, you typically want to make sure that you have filled out all of the information on a Google business profile. They're free to set up, obviously, and a good way to keep yourself on top is to ask for reviews constantly. They're very hard to get because people don't tend to want to do too much work after they've received a service. But if you really stay on it and get those reviews and respond to those reviews, Google sees that as you being a really active business. So that's quite a nice little tip to show that you're a good one to place at the top of those packs. And then shopping. So if you're an e-commerce business, your products will actually show as well in the shopping tab. So they're mixed in with the paid ads, the Google paid ads. But as long as your product pages on your website are optimized, we can get those ranking highly in the Google shopping listings. So, quite see my title there, but this is what can SEO do for you. So the good thing about SEO is that you're not having to pay each time someone clicks on your website. So each click is technically free. The investment comes from the time that you have to put in and the work that you have to put in to get there. So once you're up there and you're ranking on that first page or highly on that first page, you'll see a consistent stream of those qualified leads coming through. It obviously also depends on how well optimized your website is when you land on it. So you want to make sure that you have a lot of call to actions, that it's really easy for customers to get in touch with you, because if your website doesn't offer a very good user experience, you'll find that people will tend to land on your website because you've done all the good SEO work, but then they're going to leave because you've not made it easy for them to get in contact with you. It offers 24/7 visibility. So sometimes if you're running ads, you'll do that on a schedule. You obviously don't do that with your website. It's up all the time. So when you're ranking there, it's there whenever someone searches for you. The strategy for it does take a little bit longer, as I said. So it's much more of a long-term plan. But when you start seeing that return on investment, it will just keep getting better and better and better for you. It also builds brand credibility and trust. If you're seeing a website show regularly for all those related terms for that niche or that service or that product, you're going to see them as more trustworthy, and in turn it's helping you with brand awareness and to make sure that you're more reliable of a business to go towards. And like I said, it's free traffic. The timeline for SEO. So normally for the first 3 months, it's a case of if you've never run SEO before as well. So we're starting with either new websites or pretty unvisible websites in Google. It requires a bit of technical setup. So there's a lot of stuff that we will need to do in the end of your website to make it easy for Google to understand. There's the research phase. So we're going to have to find what your customers are searching for, what's related to your services. So, you know, with Google Ads, you're not wanting to target the research queries, but actually it can be really beneficial to target research queries organically. So whether that's through writing blogs related to your services, to your products, because you can attract customers at the top of that funnel, give them that information. And again, that's already establishing that brand visibility there, so that then when they're ready to invest in a service with you, they'll already be aware of you as a business. Content creation. So with the rise of AI, a lot of people will get, you know, ChatGPT to generate the pages for their websites or write blogs for them. Google doesn't quite like that. It likes to make sure that the content is written by someone who's very experienced in the industry, in their niche, and that it is actually meeting what users are searching for. So ChatGPT can be a great tool, but make sure that obviously you as a business owner, you'll know your service inside out. So having that human intervention there is a much better way of doing it. But you do want to make sure that you have, again, enough service pages, product pages if you're e-commerce, blogs, and targeting FAQs and things like that. So you're giving users landing on your website all of the information they need to make an informed decision. And then you also want to look at where your initial rankings are. So if you're non-existent and it's going to take a lot of work, it's normally a better idea to target some of the easier to rank for terms. So terms that are a bit more lower competition, they might be lower search volume, but it does mean typically that they're a bit easier to show for. Months 3 to 6 is where we start to see the visibility increase a bit more. So obviously it's a bit of a longer time to wait, but Google's having to learn your website, it's having to trust your website, and work out where it should place you in the search results in comparison to your competitors and other people in the industry. So by this time we should have, some more content up on the website, technical fixes will be in place, and Google will start to begin to trust you. So we'll see that your traffic should start growing and your rankings for your target keywords should start picking up. Some more of the competitive terms we'll see start ranking. We're not expecting first page for super competitive terms at this point, but when we start to see them shifting up, we know that Google's taking that your website is good for users and outranking others. So we start to see it move. And then month 6 to 12 is really where we should start to see that top positions for your target keywords have been secured. You should start seeing on the business side of things that you're seeing consistent leads coming through organically, and that you're starting to feel that return on investment for the time and everything that you've put into working on the SEO. This is going on to the investment. So to do it yourself, it's very time consuming. You have to really be prepared for the amount of time it's going to take. There are tools that you can use that will help. These can be quite expensive, I won't lie to you. So, for the tools for keyword research purposes, for example, we're looking at anywhere between like £100 to £500 a month. They are quite costly. So that's one thing to consider. You can do it without the tools, but it becomes a lot more guessworky because you're not having the information directly, for example, of how many people a month have searched for this certain keyword. Is it a good keyword to target? How many of my competitors are targeting this keyword? All of this research you're going to have to try and do manually yourself. So that's adding a much bigger time investment on. If you were to use an agency, for example, most of the time, obviously, depending on who you go for, they should already have these tools in place. So already saving quite a lot of money there. And they typically know what keywords they're wanting to target, what the strategy is to build, especially like a content strategy. You have to be quite creative with it. So as a business owner, your input will always be wanted and needed because you know your industry inside out, but knowing what topics are worth covering, for example, is where the expertise can come in. The time, so for just an initial setup, we're looking at doing a technical audit of your website, seeing if there's any problems. Is your website too slow? Is it impacting users? Because, everyone hates a slow loading website. You're normally going to click off and find the next one that's a bit quicker. Doing that keyword research, so again, helping build that content strategy, knowing what's worth targeting, what isn't worth targeting, creating that initial content, and then the ongoing work, so adding new content weekly or monthly because we want to show Google that everything's fresh. You're actively adding to the website so that Google's bots are recrawling it often and seeing that you've made these improvements, and then again wanting to push you up in the rankings, and then actually monitoring the performance as well. So you've got to look at what's working, what pages have got more traffic going to them now, which ones aren't really moving that much. We make a decision on that. Do these pages need rewriting completely? Google also takes into account how fresh your content is. So even though you might rank really, really well for this blog from 3 years ago, you might find that since your competitors have updated theirs or written new ones on that similar topic, you'll have to actually go back and rewrite that to re-optimize it and show Google that you're actively working on these things. Time reality, you can spend as little time or as the most time that you want on it. It's really down to what you can invest if you're doing it on a DIY level. So you could spend an hour a week and write a blog, but you've got to understand at that point how much is actually going to benefit you in the long-term scheme of things, because as you know, it takes a while to show those results. So the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. Again, with an agency, you can ignore all of that, let someone else do all of that heavy lifting, and you can focus on the business and just know what's working, what's not, and then you can give that advice on, we want to push this service, we're not too bothered about this service, and that can help formulate a strategy of what the agency would focus on. The SEO basics, I mean, there's a lot, I won't lie, that goes into creating an SEO strategy, because we're basically trying to target any area we can that we know Google looks at to make your websites better and more visible. I've mentioned a few times technical issues. So the things we're looking at here are things like the speed of your website, how friendly your website is with mobile design. So obviously, most people think of websites, you're looking on a desktop, but we find that most of the clicks for most industries come from mobile, with how easy it is to do these days. So we want to make sure that the design is also fit for mobile. Any broken links, so other websites linking to your website linking to other websites, or linking to other pages within your website. If those aren't working, that offers a really poor user experience, and it also impacts how people use your website. Proper indexing. Indexing is essentially where Google is taking note that you've got this page on your website and is showing that in the search results. So you can have some pages on your website that people can't navigate to from the search results. An example of this would be if you're running Google Ads and you want a very specific page for users to land on, but you don't want them to find that organically because it's very bespoke to the ads, then we can no index that page so Google won't show that in the search results. Or if you have a couple of pages that are all very, very similar and you don't want those keywords to compete, which can negatively impact your SEO, we can set those pages to no index so it won't cause those issues. But on the other hand, we want the important pages like your service pages, blogs, any informational content that you want to rank. Google needs to take note of it and index them. Basically, Google won't rank a broken website or a website that offers a poor experience. Finding the right keywords. So what are your customers actually searching for? Some people, you might think, oh, well, I'm sure they'd search this keyword, but in reality, they're searching these keywords. So it's good to get that information there. And figuring out what it is they're actually typing and what are the questions linked around things that they're typing as well, so that you can answer any of those questions before the user even has them. Tends to work really well. Quality content. So like I said, answering questions, solving problems, and being genuinely helpful. If you've got just like a paragraph on a page about the service, it's not offering a very good experience to users, and it's not building that trust there. And if you're just stuffing loads of keywords that you think users are going to search for into one paragraph, Google sees through that as a bit of a spammy technique, and it won't rank you very well either. Build an authority. So you're going to want other websites in your niche or your industry to link to you, because Google will see that as well. This website's trusted by others. That's really good. They must be a good one to put in front of these searchers. Positive reviews are always really, really good. And then local citations. So sometimes you get directory sites that are like window cleaners in Essex or businesses in Essex. Getting yourself a citation on those websites are always really good. And it's just proven to Google that, yeah, you're trustworthy and that you're established. And then monitoring and adjusting. So monitoring the performance of your website through other methods like Google Analytics is a really, really good way to see if it's actually having an impact, what you need to work on, what is working well for you already, and then tracking the conversions as well, because you're going to want to see how many people who have come to your website organically have actually got in contact with you as well. And those are things that you can all track. Similar with Google, SEO is never just a done sort of thing. It does require ongoing maintenance as such. So even if you are ranking first for your target keyword for this one service, you think brilliant, your competitors are always going to be working on their own websites. It's always a bit of a fight for that first 3 positions. So if you stop, you're more likely to start slipping down and your competitors are going to start outranking. So it's really important to stay on top of those things. And if you're adding more content to your website and your website's getting bigger, technical issues can start arising there as well. So it's one of those things you've always just got to keep on top of. And I think that's me done. Perfect. Who's next? Social media for paid ads. That's Megan.
Hello, so I'm Megan, and I'm going to be talking about social media, but specifically the paid ads on the platforms. So just to start off with, there are obviously lots of different social media platforms out there. They're all quite similar in the way that you can target people, but they all kind of have like specific things that, you know, stand out for each platform. So the most kind of commonly known one is Meta Ads, which focuses on Facebook, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, and it's got like a versatile targeting option that goes across all the platforms. You've got LinkedIn, which is ideal for business to business. You know, if you're a company that solely relies on other businesses for your services, LinkedIn's going to be a really good one. You've got TikTok, which is obviously one of the newer ones, great for short form content, and it's kind of, you know, better for the younger demographic. Pinterest, you've got high intent users, strong focus on lifestyle, it's very visual. And then YouTube, where you can run video focused campaigns, but you can do that via Google Ads. The main one we're going to focus on today is Meta Ads. So what are Meta Ads? So as I said, they are ads that run across Facebook and Instagram. You can also see them on Facebook Messenger and the Audience Network as well. They are objective-based campaigns, so you can go for things like traffic. If you just want to drive as much traffic to your website as possible, you can go for that. If you want to build brand awareness, you could do that, and then you can also use it to generate leads. You input a target that, like targeting audience that works for your business. So, you know, who are the people that are going to want your service? How old are they? What are they interested in? You put all of that into the platform, and Meta will push your ads to them people. So there are different stages of Meta ads. So first thing you need to decide is what you actually want to achieve from your campaign. Do you want that traffic? Do you want leads? Or do you just want to build a little bit of extra awareness about your brand? You input your target audience, your ad enters an auction, and then your ad is shown to that target audience. So there are a couple of reasons why you should consider Meta ads. It's got a massive reach. It's got billions of users. It's one of the most used social media platforms out there. It's got smart targeting capabilities, so you can target the demographics, you can target the interests, and also people's behaviors on other websites as well. There's different formats that you can use, so you can focus on video, images, you can do more images, so like a carousel where you can swipe and see different information, or you can focus on stories as well. And you've got that cross-platform reach where your one ad can show on both Facebook and Instagram as well. The investment required. So the time, you're going to have to obviously create the campaigns, the visuals. So, you know, it's very content driven. So you're going to need to go out and take the photos that you think are going to draw people to your ads. You're going to need to create the videos. You need to put it all together. You need to come up with the informative ad text, the headlines and the descriptions that people are going to see. What message do you want to push to people? You would also want to update these on a regular basis, because in some cases people might see your ad over and over again. They're just going to get bored of it. So you want to make sure that you're updating your creative. So, you know, you're putting a new message in front of people. Just like with Google Ads, there is also a ad budget for the Meta Ads side of things. It can kind of depend on a number of factors. So if you're running loads of ads because you want to portray loads of different messages, you'll want a bigger budget so that your budget isn't spread too thin. If you're targeting a large area, you will also want more budget so it's not spread too thin. And, you know, the audience size will also kind of tap into that as well. If you've got a very large audience and a small budget, you're not going to get, the whole audience is not going to see your ad. So lots of different businesses can benefit from Meta ads. So here are a couple of examples. So anything to do with like lifestyle and community is really, really great. So if you're like a gym, you've got a new offer, you can tap into people that, you know, are interested in like wellness and health. You can use how they interact on other health and wellness like websites as well in your targeting. With Meta ads, you can sell the transformation, you can kind of build your content so that it's like, this is what you can get. And it also helps put the idea in people's minds that they need to be going down the route of, say, joining a gym or joining your like wellness class. E-commerce businesses, so fashion, beauty, home, any sort of like fitness product. you've got like images or like videos of people using your product, the visual element of it is great. It generates interest in the product and it stops that user while they're scrolling through their feed. And then local businesses with a defined radius, so things like restaurants, clinics, salons, it just offers local awareness, and you can do that via the location targeting. So the actual ad itself is built of a creative element, so a single image, a video, or a carousel, and the primary text. There's not really a limit like there is with Google. You're not limited to like 90 characters. You can have some lengthy text if you want. It's a little bit less restrictive in that sense. So you always have a headline, a description, and then you pick a call to action button. That's based on what you want people to do and how you want them to interact with the ad. So this is an example of what an ad would look like on Meta. So you've got your primary text. This is quite a short example, but you can, like I said, you can have a very long primary text. If you want, you can experiment with different ad texts as well. So you could have really short ones, you can have really long ones, and you can monitor how they work. And, you know, if the short ones are working really, really well, you can go and adapt that in the strategy as well. You've got your ad creative. In this case, it was a video, the headline, which is just at the bottom, and then your call to action. So in this case, it's learn more, but you can have things like shop now, sign up, call now, get a quote. And then you've got a little description there, which kind of just gives you a little bit more of the important information. So things to consider with your ad creatives: always use high quality images and videos. If your images are just poor quality, if the pictures are blurry, if they're not in focus, if you're using videos and there's a camera shake, people aren't really going to perceive it very well. You want to make sure that you're showing your product and service in action, so it's relevant. You know, use your branding. If you've got specific colors and fonts that are for your brand, use them. It just helps build up the awareness. And include your offer and your hook. Include it higher up so that it drags people in straight away. You don't want to get it lost in the middle of the ad text, because the chances are people might not even read that far if you haven't hooked them from the start. And then, like I said, you can test different ad variations. So long ones, short ones. You can try using emojis in the ad text if it's appropriate. See what works, what doesn't, and then you can always go from there. So avoid generic stock images and videos. The chances are, if you're using them, other people are also using them. Blurry images and videos, like I said, it just doesn't really kind of give the best first impression. And don't leave out your offer, your hook. Otherwise, people just are going to get bored and you're not really giving them a reason to interact with your ad. So considerations for the ad text: like I said, lead with your hook. If you put it in the middle, it's going to get lost, or people are just not going to read far enough to see it. Keep your text concise. A lot of people will just skim read. I find that bullet points are great. You don't have to use bullet points. You could use relevant emojis to kind of break the text up with your key points. But it just means that they're standing out and people can see the most important bits quite easily. Speak to your audience's pain points. So what issues do they have that you can help with? You know, if you're selling skincare, for example, you know, what is their problem and how can you help them with it? And always use a clear CTA. So what do you want them to do? Are you an e-commerce client? Do you want them to buy your product? Do you want them to call you up to get a quote? Tell them what to do, and then they're more likely to do it. That is it for the paid side of social media. Olivia is now going to talk to you about the more organic side of social media.
Hi, I'm Olivia, and I'm going to talk you through organic social media management. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just the process of creating and publishing posts on your social media. It's really good for building trust, visibility, and engagement within your audience. And it also gives you an opportunity to turn people that are already on social media into long-term clients. So why should you be posting? Like I say, it's good for building brand awareness. Your audience is already on the platform, so it's kind of silly not to be using it. It also supports buying decisions by building trust within your audience. You can turn interest into real conversations, and those conversations can hopefully then turn into leads. And you can turn your followers into customers and eventually brand advocates as well. So your investment required, you're going to have to put in a lot of time into this. It's quite a drawn out process. So initially you're going to have to do a lot of research. This includes competitor research, what other people are posting, what are your audience interacting with as well? Are they liking reels? Do they like images? Do they like, posts that have a lot of advice on them? Do they want to see, reviews and things like that? And from that, you can start to build your strategy, and that will include what you're going to be posting. So like I say, you're going to use reels, you're going to use images. Are you going to focus on giving out advice, things like that? And then from there, you can start to build and plan your content calendar. We'd recommend building that at least a couple of weeks in advance, but just give yourself time for if trends come up and stuff, because you're going to have to jump on them quite quickly. If you are going to use trends, only use ones that actually are relevant for your business. You don't want to look like you're trying to be something you're not just because you're using a trend. And with your content calendar as well, just make sure that you can actually commit to posting to what you say you're going to do. So if you can only do 2 posts a week, that's absolutely fine as long as you're consistent with it, because the algorithm awards consistency. You're also going to have to put some time aside to regularly review your content and your strategy, because you may need to change this. You also may need to change what you're doing based on the algorithm. I think it's no real secret that reels lead to a lot of reach. But more recently, the algorithm has also been pushing carousels. So they might take you a little bit longer to do. So just to keep that in mind as well. Money wise, you don't have to spend money on the platform at all, unless you want to be verified. Then it does cost money, and there's 3 different plans, I believe. So it really depends if you want that blue tick or not. I think if you haven't got a lot of followers, you've got 10 followers and you've got a blue tick, it's really obvious that it's not, you're not actually verified. People still associate being verified with having lots of followers rather than the fact that everyone actually just pays for it. So just bear that in mind. And if you also want to use any third-party solutions to schedule your post, they can cost money as well. But you don't need to do that, because you can schedule them in the platforms like Facebook and Instagram. So it's only really as a convenience thing. So a lot of businesses do benefit from social media, but I'm just going to pinpoint a couple today. So first of all, we've got the local and service space, so restaurants, cafes, gyms. These are really good because it helps to instill trust by showing examples of your work and what the business has to offer. So I believe that's a Pilates studio, and her reels are used to show the actual exercises. So she's actually showing that she knows what she's talking about. And then her image posts are used to show her availability. And then down in the corner, she's also got a 20% off offer, which is really nice. If you're an e-commerce business, it also works really well because you can have a visually appealing feed, and that helps you to showcase your products before the user makes a purchase. It's also a good way to get your customers on your feed, so people that are actually wearing your products. So it's not just all model and clean and perfect. It shows them in real life, which can really help people before they make a decision to buy. And then if you're in an education sector, if you're a driving instructor, for example, if you're a tutor, if you're a speaker, you can help to showcase your knowledge and success stories for people that are using social media to research. Social media is becoming a really popular tool for research at the minute, so it's important that you're showcasing that you know what you're talking about. So getting into the actual post itself, we've got the creative element. This can be an image, a video, a carousel, and a story. It needs to be attention grabbing. People are going to be drawn in by this part, not necessarily your caption. So make sure that, if you're using a reel, it might be good to have text over it. So write as a hook to draw them in, so they actually watch it. Same with an image, you can use text on it to draw them in. And then your caption is a text that accompanies your creative elements. So you can use that to build on your reel or your carousel, whatever, and put an offer or a hook in there. So this is an example of an image. So you've got your username at the top, your post creative, your caption at the bottom. If you are going to use a carousel, you can have up to 20 images or videos, and you can mix and match them as well, which is quite nice. I think videos do work really nicely in a carousel to add that variation as well. This is an example of a reel. So for this user, they've actually used some USP text overlay. So it's kind of drilling into the user their benefits of going with them, and it means they don't have to read the caption to see that because they're doing it in the reel. They're, you know, showcasing what they offer. And then with reels, if you upload them from your phone, they can be up to 3 minutes long, but we suggest keeping them short and sweet so people don't get bored. On social media, people don't really have a good attention span, so make sure that you kind of pack what you need to into something that's not, I wouldn't say 3 minutes is ideal. I'd say it's quite long for social media. And then finally, we've got the stories. Obviously, you've got your creative. At the bottom, people can send a message. They can like your story. It's a really good opportunity to get that engagement. And stories can be up to 60 seconds long. If you want to do a longer story, I'd recommend breaking it up into little bits so it's not as sort of daunting to the user because they can just skip through. So some do's for your creatives. You want to lead with a hook to draw people in. Like I say, if you've got a reel, either text overlay or you talking, you know, maybe ask them a question or, you know, oh, we got these results in 30 days, watch to see how we did it, that sort of thing. You want to make sure you're using high resolution images or videos. If you're not, then people are unlikely to even pay attention to you. You want to showcase your product or your knowledge if you're service based, use trending sounds and jump on trends that suit your brand. Like I say, if there is a trend but it doesn't really suit your brand tone, it would almost look weirder you using it than you just going past it. I mean, there's loads of trends out there, so you'll probably find one for you anyway. Don't use generic stock images or videos. Don't export from apps like WhatsApp because they just export on really low quality. Don't change your look on every post. Use your brand colors, your tone of voice, use your brand font, things like that. You want to make sure that your feed is very consistent. Otherwise, it's sort of like, where do you look? So make sure you look the same in every post as much as you can, and don't leave the best moment until the end. So don't leave your offer or hook at the end of your video. The likelihood is they haven't even made it that far. And then with your caption, make sure you're adding value to the user. You want to keep them there as long as possible, and you want to make sure that your caption actually entices them to follow you or share it or like it. So make sure you're actually adding value to them. Include a CTA in your caption as well. So do you want them to share it? Do you want them to follow you? Do you want them to save it? At the minute, the algorithm really focuses on engagement. So if you can push people to share and like and comment, that's best. And match the tone of your audience as well. Think about how they're going to talk, not necessarily how you're going to talk. Don't be overly salesy or pushy. People don't like that. That's not why they're on social media. They don't want to be sold to. Obviously, you know, you can put in subtle hints here and there, but until they are your customer, it's all about adding value to their life and making sure that they know who you are. Don't ignore punctuation or formatting, and don't use words your audience won't understand. Obviously, you know your business inside and out, but they might not. Like earlier with the funnel, if we posted that on social media and someone doesn't know what that means, they're likely to scroll past it. So if you are going to use specific terms, maybe just explain them to your audience. Remember, some of these people are coming and seeing your post with absolutely no information on what you do or who you are, or potentially what your industry is even about. So just keep that in mind. So we'll take a quick break and then we'll get into the Q&A.
Perfect. So we've got a couple of questions online, but we will be asking the girls all the questions in the room as well. So if anyone's got any questions they want to kick us off with, or want me to go online to those questions, we've got a extensive list. People have been, I think it's been an amazing sort of presentation. You girls are obviously experts in what you do. So I found it so useful. But yeah, we'll jump into some questions first. So a question from online. Well, we answered that one. How much do you need to invest in ads, and what is the difference in price between Google ads and Bing ads, as people have heard of using Bing instead of Google?
Should we swap? Because that starts works and I
Okay.
think it would all fit.
No, we won't know.
Not to work out who's related to and tag team.
Can you just remind me of the first bit again?
how much to invest in
How much
ads
to
and
invest?
what's the difference between Google and Bing? Some people are using Bing now instead of Google.
Yes, true. Okay, so in terms of how much to invest, I mean, gosh, how long is a piece of string question? There is an element of how much can you invest, but then also for Google Ads, generally, you don't want to be looking at any less than £10 a day for your ad spend, really. You can do less, but then you've got to think about how many clicks you're actually going to be able to achieve, and then what your conversion rate is for your website. I mentioned the keyword planner tool that is within Google Ads, and that's how you can do your keyword research. It also gives you an idea of the cost per click. It gives you a low estimate and a high estimate. And let's say, for example, your average cost per click is about £2, it looks like. If you've got less than £10 a day, let's say you've got £5 a day, you can maybe get 2.5 clicks. What's your conversion rate on your website like? If you've got a brilliant conversion rate, and let's say one of those 2 clicks will probably reach out, then fine. But if you don't, there's some maths to do there in terms of working out what a realistic investment should be. But looking at the keyword planner tool will help you work that out as well. We do it as well when we have clients come to us. They'll say to us, well, you know, how much should I invest? What should my budget be? And then we're like, well, we need to look at roughly what your cost per click is, because you want to target London. Let's say London is, as everything is more expensive in London, so is clicks. And then we can give some more advice based on, okay, we've done the research and it looks like your average cost per click will be about this. So it's a bit more of a conversation. Going on to Bing, yes, generally Bing, the cost per click is lower on there. Or it's Microsoft Ads is the platform that you log into. It's lower. There is also lower traffic on there. You again have to think about the kind of audience that you have for your business. For some businesses, like B2B especially, will be more geared up to being on Bing and searching via that. You've got to think about like the devices that people have. Are those search engines default on the devices that they've got, the laptops they've got at work? For some industries, Bing is exactly where their clients are. And for some industries, it really isn't, because let's say, you know, if you've got an iPhone, your default browser on your phone is Safari. If you've got a Mac, it's the same. Lots of people are using Chrome these days instead of Internet Explorer, stuff like that. If they're using Chrome, they're more likely going to be searching on Google than they are on Bing. So not to say that it's not viable at all. It is cheaper because there's less traffic there, and you really have to think about your audience. Are your demographic older, let's say? Therefore, are they more likely to be using that default browser that comes with the device that they're going to be searching on? I hope that helps.
Yes, I do. We've met, sorry, should I ask about mental health?
Yes, yeah, feel free
Yes,
to ask.
I won't be the one to answer. Someone else will. What?
You want to swap fast or?
Yes.
Difficult. So anyhow, when you were talking about, you know, like the different steps, you were saying at some point that the ads will enter into an auction.
Yeah.
And I wonder what that means. If you're paying for it, you would expect it to go through stages, but what's the auction cost?
Well, if people have got like a higher budget, then and they can pay more, then they're more likely to be shown because they've got that budget behind them. It kind of does depend on that audience, that service, and how big that audience is. But that's kind of where the budget comes in as to kind of how high or how often you're going to be shown in comparison.
So is there a possibility then, assuming you have a lower end project or mid-range project, that your ad is very much shown?
In some cases, yes. If you've got someone who does have more budget behind them, then they are just more likely to show.
Thanks. It hadn't occurred to me that you might pay for something like that. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
One up in zero chocolates and lesser ones. So have you got any information on like the type of kind of ad formats that work better, like video, carousel, image, or is it
Really depends. There's not a specific answer. The best bet would be to run the different creatives alongside each other and analyze the data at which ones are going to get you the best results. So, you know, maybe run a video, run a single image and run a carousel along each other. And, you know, whichever one's bringing you in the best results, that's probably one to kind of venture down. So, you know, if videos are working really, really well, you can scale back on the images and go a bit more full steam with the video content.
And I've heard as well, like it's not good to like boost posts, but sometimes you can create an ad and it says user post. Is that okay, or is that really not good either?
It can work.
Yeah.
It would kind of be on an experimental basis. So, you know, you can run an ad and a boosted post and see what works. In some cases, boosted posts do work really, really well. But it's one of them things that for some people it won't. It's very like experimental on the platform. So you'd want to test it all out, find out what works best for your company and your business, and then kind of go down that route.
And also any information on like the call to action buttons. Do you know if any, because for a lot of our ads, we could use contact us, we could use learn more. Are there any like stats on like which ones are better, like that people are more likely to click on, or is it?
It completely depends on what you want people to do. So if you want people to contact you, that's what you want to be telling them to do. Likewise, in like ad text on any other platform, you want to encourage people to do the action that you want them to do. If you don't want them to call you because you're not available just to pick up the phone and have a chat, don't prompt people to call you. You know, you've got a form or you can get them to sign up. It's very business dependent. You know, shopping wise, you would want to encourage someone to shop on your website.
Well, the meta as well, like if you get you posted and you get a suggestion to boost that particular post, is that suggesting it's because it's quite popular already, that people are viewing it, or
not necessarily? You'll probably get prompted to boost most things that you post anyway.
It's only been a couple of posts, not all of them, and I post probably like 3 times a week. So I just wondered if it was just because that one really looked more attractive to the audience.
I think it kind of just depends, really. Like it's always worth giving it a go. But if you've tried boosting posts before and you haven't had much success, then I probably wouldn't recommend continuing to do something that hasn't worked in the past.
If I do one from people at home, would you still come up on maps if you're a remote/online based business? It could be. In short, yes. So you don't have to have a physical location to have a maps listing, because you still have to put in your location. So if you're working from home, let's say, to actually set up your Google Maps listing, you would have to put in your address so it can verify that you're a real person and that sort of thing. But to actually present to the world, you can show your service area. So if, for example, you service lots of different places in the UK, then you can put down that radius there in the maps listing. If you're fully remote business, you ever go out to meet clients, or, for example, I'll go back to the skip hire one. Obviously, people aren't going to come to your business location to get a skip, you're going to them. Maps listings work very, very well for that. But let's say, it's a total remote business, you might not find you're as popular in the maps listing. You're probably better off putting that energy into getting your service pages to rank. But that's not to say you shouldn't set one up and get those positive reviews, because it still builds that brand trust and credibility. I've got another one for you as well. Is it better from an SEO perspective to have different landing pages for each product type, or can you group product types on one page?
I'm assuming this is for an e-commerce business, so I'll go down that route. For collections, which is what the product landing pages are, if you've got a couple of different products, you want them to show on a collection. So, for example, if you're selling men's trainers, you're probably going to have a few different types of men's trainers. So you're going to want to group those by maybe brand. So if you sell both Adidas and Nike trainers, you're going to want those on one main collection page. So if someone just types in men's trainers, you're giving them all the options. But if they type in Nike men's trainers, you're giving them a very specific page that only has the Nike men's trainers on. Same for how you can filter out colours and that sort of thing as well. If you've got a lot of very similar products, or, for example, it's for a really good gifting season. So let's say you've got Mother's Day coming up and these are products that you think people would buy for their mothers, create that as a collection. So really, you want to group products together based on what people are searching for. If they're searching for very, very specifically this one product, that the product title matches the exact title of, you know, the page that they're going to land on, they're most likely to land on the actual product page themselves and make that purchase. But for the more broader research based of, I'm not exactly sure what I want, so I'm looking for Mother's Day gifts, your collection will show there. So it's basically about meeting what the users are searching for and grouping your products together in that aspect.
Yeah, oh, previous well mentioned.
Right.
So the SEO, is it still like if meta titles and descriptions seem content, or is the Google advanced now? Just
So Google will generate them themselves, obviously, because it's got to be there. If you don't put them in yourself. There's been some experiments run where some SEOs have let Google pick the titles because in their mind Google knows best and it will know what to put in front of users. That doesn't work for everyone. It can backfire, and then if you don't have the set amount of characters, similar to a Google ad, you get like the recommended number of characters. It will just go ... and then it's just pulled the very first bit of information from your website, and that's not really selling yourself. I tend to find the click-through rates increase more if you go a bit more down like the ad text route. So, you know, explaining what the page is, but then also you want in your description to be a bit enticing, because whilst Google isn't looking at that necessarily and making that a ranking factor, it still matters that when the users are seeing that, you want them to click on your website and not the one below. So if the one below sounds more attractive, they're going to go for that. So it's still about making yourself seem as attractive as possible in the search results. So I'd recommend testing it out on a few different pages and seeing what works. Go for it.
So say you've got a Google profile.
Yeah.
Would Google prefer the Google reviews or say Trustpilot?
They work differently. So Google's going to rank your maps listing better if you've got more good Google reviews. But for example, Trustpilot and things like that, they'll rank in the search results on their own as their own website. So it's probably good to get a mixture. But if we're talking about purely for the SEO purposes of people landing to your website, I personally think prioritizing Google reviews, at least to start with, so you've got a really good chunk of them there, it makes you look a bit more reputable. I also think Google reviews are a little bit easier to get because you can send them the direct link from your Google business profile. So when they click on that link, it'll open it up ready for them to give you the star rating and write the review. So if you can provide that to your customers, you're making it a bit easier for them. They're more likely to leave you a review, because that's half the battle, is actually getting them to physically leave you a review, which, yeah, takes time. No worries. Anyone else for SEO?
Anything an online one?
Yeah.
Social media.
Yes, nothing.
Social media, would you use the direct share feature? If you're using the direct share feature, sorry, would you tweak the content between Instagram and Facebook, or would you just share the same content across all platforms?
Depends what you're doing. I personally think there's no need to tweak it. The only thing is with Facebook, you can add a link, and with Instagram, you can't. So if you wanted to like say, oh, contact us or check out this blog for more, you can link to that blog in Facebook, but just don't put the link in Instagram because it doesn't work. But other than that, I think they're okay to share the same post across both platforms.
Perfect.
Following on from that, I've read that kind of with Instagram posts, rather than putting like link in bio, it's better to ask for like DM.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think saying like check out the link in our bio, you're asking them to do a lot. You're asking them to then go to your profile, then click the link. Some people have Linktree as well. So from Linktree, then click the right link. I think, you know, starting a DM conversation is a nice way to open up a conversation. And DM is so much easier. Or asking them like comment like a word or something and you'll DM them, stuff like that. So you're keeping them on the platform, I think is easier for them and easier for you in a lot of cases as well. All right.
Is it true as well that hashtags aren't really that powerful anymore?
Really depends. I would say if you're not too worried about posting the same thing twice, do one with hashtags and one with like just the keywords and test them. And then you can see like what one's got better reach and stuff. It's one of those things where everyone has a different opinion. Some people will say they work, some people will say they don't. I mean, you can test, like I say, just instead of doing a hashtag, just doing the keyword. You don't have to post the same thing twice. Maybe do it on a couple of different ones and see if there's any real difference. It's just one of those things like people will eventually say reels are redundant. It's just a case of testing it and seeing what works for you. There's no real like do or don't. I can't pronounce his name, but I'd follow the guy who owns Instagram. I do not know how to pronounce his last name. Does anyone know? No, I think it's Adam Monsretti or something like that. But he posts a lot of good reels as well to watch. So keep up to date with him because obviously he knows what he's talking about because he runs the platform. All right.
We take one last one from online and then we will stop. With LinkedIn. So anything you would do different for business to business people on LinkedIn as opposed to other social media sites?
Yeah, I wouldn't use trends and I'd keep it very advice based. And if it's business to business, maybe use that industry jargon we were talking about earlier, because if it's business to business, they'll probably know a bit more about it. But yeah, I wouldn't really post the fun, trendy content on LinkedIn. It's not really what it's there for. It's more research based and advice based. So I would change it for LinkedIn.
Swap out with you quickly, sorry. Yeah, thank you so much, Heavyweight Digital, for hosting us, and ladies for all your expertise this morning. I think everyone will agree with me. I've learned so much from you girls, and it's been so useful and also relatable to so many different businesses and sort of variations and things like that. So thank you so much for hosting us and presenting today. It's been amazing. Just before we sign off online, I just want to bring everyone's attention to a couple of our upcoming workshops. We have got a Grow Your Business workshop on the 12th of February that will be in Thurrock. Again, that's online and actually in person as well. So I'll send the links to that through to everyone via email when I send you today's recording. And we will also be exhibitioning, that's the right word, at the South Essex Business Expo on the 14th of March in Brentwood. So we'll be there, so feel free to come along and see us and see all the other amazing businesses in South Essex. But yeah, thank you so much for today. I will sign online people off now. But if you didn't get a chance to scan the QR code, the link is in the chat as well. If you could just do the event registration form, and it'll mean that we can give you some a bit more personalised follow-up help and things to our services. I've also put the Ambitious Essex website in the chat as well, so feel free to go through to that. And thank you so much for joining us. And then people in the room, we can network, and I'll take the buzz it down. But thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You had a question.